It's finally time. We're here. We are kicking off our profiles, predictions, and previews, the three Ps of 2023. We got it. We're here. We're so close to opening day. We're going to head to the NL East first. We're going to go in reverse order. So last year's division rankings, the Nationals finished last. So they're going to get to go first, and the Braves will go last. Let's kick it off. We're heading to the Nationals, and we have Aiden with us today. How you doing today, Aiden?
I'm doing good. Excited to be back for this episode.
Thomas Stebbs?
We got our Nats analyst here. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, I'm
Stev.
excited to talk. I'm always excited to talk about Nationals. So I can't wait to talk about them. I can't wait to watch them play, even if it's going to be abysmal.
So just going to briefly highlight their last season, which, as Devs described, was abysmal. They went 55 and 107, good for fifth in the National League East. They traded away Juan Soto, and Steven Strasburg was injured the entire season. I think that's a pretty good synopsis of what happened.
Yeah, pretty much. You covered everything.
All
And
right.
Joey Meneses. That's the only positive.
Fair. We did have a positive in Washington, which is rare these days. Capitals just traded away a lot of their players today. Can someone talk us through our offseason moves with the Washington Nationals?
I'll do it. So that started off. I mean, they didn't really do anything special. Signed Dominic Smith to a 1-year, $2 million deal. Then went on signed Corey Dickerson to a 1-year, $2.25 million deal. Signed Chad Cole to a minor league deal and signed Alex Colomb to a minor league deal. And then wrapping it up, they got Jeimer Candelario to a 1-year, $5 million deal. It's basically a lot of 1-year prove it deals. If they do anything, the Nats will probably try and flip them at the deadline for any sort of prospects. And Dominic Smith is kind of, in my opinion, the best of those signings because he never really had an opportunity in New York to prove himself as like the everyday starting first baseman. And here in Washington, he definitely has that opportunity.
Yeah, Tom, which of these guys are you most looking forward to?
Of these offseason acquisitions, I'm actually excited to watch Jeimer Candelario. Obviously, 2022 was a bad season, but his 2021 season, he was an average bat, maybe a little bit above average. He's not a bad player. He's got the upside, and I think that's what the Nats are looking for. I wouldn't be disappointed as a fan. There's movement in the organization. And we're going to talk about some teams that didn't do much, that are still bad, but they're not doing much. But this is a team that's working in the offseason and actually, getting pieces. I like it.
Yeah, and Aiden, which of these moves do you think is most beneficial looking forward to try to get some prospect capital?
Well, if you want to go looking forward for prospect capital, uh, I mean, that's a tough one. I mean, the big one would be, the big one, would be Dom Smith. You have Williams filling in that probably starting pitcher 3 spot about, or Candelario for third, for prospects. But like, I mean, then you have Jeter Downs, who I know we didn't, I don't think we mentioned, who, struggled in Boston for a bit. But maybe now with a new home, he can kind of rekindle.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think you got some.
Aiden did make a fair point. We did miss out on that Jeter Downs move, and Trevor Williams, he signed a 2-year, $13 million deal with the ball club. Honestly, that would probably be their best move. They get a good starting pitcher to help kind of work through these with these young guys, and I guess Patrick Corbin.
Yeah, so honestly, I think the biggest move that the Nationals could make is sending Patrick Corbin to the bullpen, but I don't know how likely that is.
I think that's highly likely or
Uh,
highly unlikely.
Tom, can you talk us through the starting rotation?
So, I mean, this rotation has a lot of upside. That's all I'm going to say. Have they reached their potential yet? No. Um, and I think Steven Strasburg's career might be coming to an end. But I think you got a potential good starting 3 here in Josiah Gray, Cade Cavalli, Mackenzie Gore. As Brad was mentioning, though, Trevor Williams might be filling in that last spot. We don't even want to talk about Patrick Corbin, obviously, but Josiah Gray and Cade Cavalli and even Mackenzie Gore, we saw they all have tools. It's just a matter of whether the Nats can, get the most out of them. I think of the 3, Josiah Gray is probably the highest upside. I mean, at least when he was a rookie, he had all the hype on him. Stez, what do you think?
I'd say it's Mackenzie Gore.
Yeah.
I mean, Mackenzie Gore kind of shot up through the minor leagues with San Diego. He came out, played abysmally last year, and then got hurt. So, I mean, again, there's a lot of upside on all of these guys. I like the direction of the Washington Nationals. Right, I'm going to talk about that because we're not gonna we weren't gonna compete at all in the NL East, especially for the next couple seasons at the rate we were going. So you know what, blow it up. That's the hardest decision that teams can make, is to just blow it up. So we got guys, we got Josiah Gray, we have Kay Cavalli, we have Mackenzie Gore. Those are three guys that are hardworking. They're at work nearly every single day, and I can see the vision that Mike Rizzo has.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at last season, I think it was kind of, obviously, we said this multiple times, season was abysmal. It didn't go the way anybody wanted. But I think the way Steph just said, blowing it up was the best possible outcome. And we did it. And so, I mean, that you could kind of say, last season, maybe was a little success. Like finally, like we can kind of say, okay, thank goodness it's over for being mediocre.
Yeah, so in all honesty, they did make some moves. And obviously the biggest one we touched on, Juan Soto getting dealt, which basically is their farm system right now. We can talk about the farm system in a moment. I just wanted to highlight the bullpen a little bit. We got Thaddeus Ward. That is a freaking name right there. Rasmus Ramirez, Alex Galame, which they project to have on the major league roster. Sean Doolittle, Victor Arano, Hunter Harvey, Carl Edwards Jr., and Kyle Finnegan. Anything substantial here? These kind of just role players.
I mean, I think the guy with, the most potential would be, Thad Ward, and, Kyle Finnegan. Finnegan, last season, was, rocky. But I believe 2021 season, he played really well. So I think if he can get back to his, his old self, he'll be fun to watch and, will be the closer. But Thad Wood, that new piece in the bullpen, I'm really excited to watch him. I've heard some good things about him. I think he has a 6-pitch mix.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Sounds
I'm
good.
not gonna lie. I've watched the Nats for a while. I think this is like last season. I think they had one of the best bullpens I've ever seen the Nats have. I mean, they were known for not having a very good bullpen for a very long time. You got some guys. I mean, Hunter Harvey pitched a very, a solid campaign for a guy that I had never heard of. I think he was on the Giants at one point. We don't talk
He was
about that.
claimed off waivers March 2022.
And Erasmo Ramirez, Carl Edwards Jr. Tanner Rainey's good. I just hope he comes back from surgery well. There's a lot of upside, and whoever this bullpen coach is needs to start coaching the starting pitchers because something's working here.
You also have to take into account they're not protecting Paolo Espino to be on this roster at all. I definitely think he will be. He was kind of our opener type of position. He started a lot of games last year. Probably went 4 innings and then kind of handed it off to the bullpen. I definitely see him getting an opportunity within this ball club.
So I think the issue with Tom, your statement of the bullpen coach taking over the pitching rotation, is that a lot of these bullpen guys are failed starters. A lot of relievers are, but it's a lot more extreme where they actually failed on the major league level. I think Thaddeus Ward is like the first guy really coming up through the system to be a reliever. I think the
Yeah.
Nationals in the past, while they were succeeding, had a lot of these guys coming up to fill the ranks of starters, and obviously it didn't succeed completely. Honestly, if there's any good moves, if Kalame is good, if Doolittle's good, send him off, get him out at the deadline. The Nationals, obviously, these big signings, got to trade him. What?
I don't
Stay.
think Doolittle. If Doolittle's good, I don't think they're gonna move him at all. He's a Washington player. He's not really a national player. He likes to play in Washington. He does very, very good things in the community, so they're not gonna move Doolittle.
Wouldn't hurt for a prospect or two.
It would not hurt, but it would hurt more from the standpoint of like he's a big piece in the community.
Yeah. And so, Tom, can you talk us through what this lineup's going to look like every day?
Yeah. So, obviously starting catcher, we got Keibert Ruiz. First base, we're gonna have Dom Smith, right, and then Joey Meneses will be DHing.
Yep.
Joey.
And then we got Luis Garcia at second. John Mark Candelario is gonna be your starting third baseman. Although we did get some good innings from Ildemaro Vargas. He actually was a scrappy third baseman last season. Kind of a guy that just filled in. Shortstop, we got CJ Abrams. Obviously, hype is still on him. Hopefully he can show out. Left field, we're kind of stacked here. We got Corey Dickerson, Yadiel Hernandez, and Lane Thomas. Alex Call's very deep in there, but he's there. Center field, we got Victor Robles, potentially one of the worst hitters in baseball. He's fantastic in the field. I think there's some potential there. We got Lane Thomas. Lane Thomas will play all outfield. He will just be moving around. And in right field, we will have most of the time Lane Thomas, but Lane Thomas can also play center field. And then starting DH is Joey Meneses.
Yeah, this is certainly a baseball lineup.
I mean,
Yeah, no, this is Robles' last chance. I mean, we've seen it.
It hasn't
Um,
been for the past
I'm
4
so-
years.
Well, I know.
The-
I just think because they signed him, I think to what, a 1-year deal. Like I
It
think,
was, they couldn't really agree on arbitration. They kind of
Yeah.
came to some sort of agreement, and it's Robles' last year in Washington. He's not
And-
coming back next year.
yeah, no, and I think even if he does show signs, he's gonna get traded at the deadline. In my opinion, I mean, our outfield is just like prospect wise, is just getting better. So yeah, he's done for.
Interesting you mentioned that, considering there's some regression in some prospects that we're going to talk about in a little bit. I think that obviously we talked about Dickerson. We didn't talk about Dickerson. We do need to address the fact, good signing, upside. Candelario, good signing, upside. Smith, good signing, upside. Like that's what the Nationals need right now. Lane Thomas, I believe he came from the Cardinals, if I have that
Yep.
correctly. And he's shown signs of life, but has never really amounted to anything. But he's also never had consistent everyday playing time. That's really what we're going to see for the first time for a lot of guys in this lineup. So 2023 is going to be a huge telling point for what the Nationals are. If this rebuild is heading in the right direction, or if it's not looking good in DC.
You mentioned that Lane Thomas trade real quick. I believe for John Lester. I mean, that might be one of the best trades that we've done. For Lane Thomas for John Lester straight up.
Yeah, it was straight up Lester for Lane Thomas. We had signed him to a 1-year deal to try and have him help us make the playoffs, and he kind of did the exact opposite of that. I think he was a kind of a clubhouse cancer.
Mhm.
But a lot of these guys are, like we've talked about, this is kind of their chance to get everyday playing time on this roster. And at this point in time, there's a lot with the younger guys. You need to see improvement, and with the older guys, you want them to help with that improvement, along with perform at a high enough level on the field.
I agree completely. I think you talked about Keibert Ruiz. I want to say it was in our catcher top 10. You mentioned him as an honorable mention. I think you're projecting him to have a bit more of like an offensive breakout this year.
Yeah, so what K-Bert needs to do is hit for power. His glove was one of the best in the MLB last year. His approach to the plate is amazing, not crazy. Or he's not a out of this world hitter. He's not an out of this world pitcher or defender. He was coming up through the minors. He's a power kind of guy with kind of suspect defense. And since he got into the major leagues, he kind of flipped on that, and he's been good defensively and has not really hit for a lot of power. If he can put power behind that bat, power behind his bat this upcoming season, I definitely think he will be within the top 5 of all-star votes, and could possibly be one of our all-stars. But there's just so many good catchers in the National League that I don't know if that's possible.
I'm sorry, I just can't find this. Where had he progressed defensively?
He was one of the top defenders, like throwing people out.
Yeah, throwing. Yeah,
throwing
like
people out.
his
Like
arm.
his arm and stuff like that. Like his glove work behind the plate, like framing and stuff like that, is not the best. But his arm, and he can gun people out, which will kind of be shaky this year, especially with the new base sizes.
I mean, I don't think that's going to make too huge of a difference in all honesty. It'll be bang bang plays are going to be closer, but other than that,
But
yeah.
I think he was second, only behind JT in throwouts last year.
Yeah.
So again, he's improving, and he's definitely becoming more of a vocal leader on this team. They had the MLB Network, and both David Martinez and K-Bert touched on this. And he's becoming more of a vocal leader, trying to work with his pitchers and stuff like that, especially since three out of the 5 starting pitchers are younger guys that he'll get an opportunity to work with a lot.
And one of the biggest people that you guys need to click is CJ Abrams. Talk to me about him.
And you want to touch on him?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think he's one of my players that, I'm expecting big things from him. And honestly, defensively, I think is where he's going to shine the most. Personally, I have him winning a Gold Glove, at shortstop, and I think that's very, reasonable to do. Um, I mean, like if his problem is, in my opinion, is his hitting, right? I mean, if he can consistently hit, it doesn't have to be for power, but more just contact, then we'll see like big improvements because we already know his defense is going to be there. His defense is That's his thing. So I think we just have to see improvements on hitting, even if it's just a little bit. That's all we have to, that's it for this year.
definitely
Has
agree
he
with
done
that.
stuff in the off season where his glove has developed? Because he had a -9 outs above average last year.
He had -9, but that was at all the positions that he played.
All right, sorry,
He had
-6 at shortstop.
-6 at shortstop with Washington.
Hmm.
So had he done stuff in the offseason that's making you see things like that? Is his track record through the minor leagues? Where are we looking for that?
Honestly, I'm just looking from just watching it in general, honestly, like no like advanced statistics, but I know from like definitely from watching like just the play, like maybe not the throws, but the like if he can, yeah, just how would you want to word this? Not necessarily his throws, but the the stopping, obviously stopping and all that. So if
His
you want to,
ability to get to the ball is kind of
there we go.
he can like kind of like a Bo Bichette type of player. Like he can get to a lot of different a lot of balls like all over the field, but his throw, he needs to work on his arm power and stuff like that. Like he has the tools to do it. He just needs to work on them. He's 21, right?
Yeah, it sounds right.
So he has a lot of time. Like Trey didn't come up until I think it was like 24. And even when he came up, it took him a couple years before that power kind of clicked along with everything, all the other tools that he had. So it's gonna take some time. The power will come as long as he continues to work with the bat.
We're talking power as in his bat.
Yes.
So also projection wise, is this coming from like what he did independent ball and high school? Because through the minor leagues, he has what is he? He has 3 to 12. He has 14 career home runs in 3 years in the minors.
Again, he's also 19. Like the power develops as you age. So it will come. It probably is not going to be 20 or 40 homers a year, but he can drop 10 to 20 a year.
So,
I don't see that coming up this next upcoming season.
so I'd like to move on to your prospects before we get into our like final predictions for the team. The prospect I'm biggest on for you guys is James Wood. Everyone's big on him. James Wood, he's a 2023 supposed to be in AA. He's got a 60 future value, highest in the national system. He's an Adam Dunn comparison, which is really interesting. Because I believe Adam Dunn, if I remember this correctly, has like the third worst strikeout rate per era in his career. But apparently he's like ridiculous raw power, great max exit velocity at 19 years old, pretty quick, which means good range in center field. He has a history of wrist injuries. What do you guys think on him?
I mean, I'm a James Wood enthusiast too. I think this is one of those outliers in the system. He's a guy who I looked at all the guys. All of them have alarmingly low walk rates to alarmingly high strikeout rates. Now, James Wood does strike out a lot, but he also walks a lot. So 50 to 75 is a very good percentage, while also stealing 20 bags. This is a potential 5-tool player. I hope they can max him out. They can maximize him in the minors, but this is a guy who can stretch singles into doubles, I mean, if it's going over the fence, it's a home run. I mean, like this is a guy with raw power. He has the potential to be very good. I just hope, and this is a guy you want to build around too. So I think James Wood is their best prospect.
Yeah, no, I'd 100% agree, and I don't know. I don't know where you guys would rate this on like a hot take scale. I think by the end of the year, he'll be the #1 prospect in MLB. I can see it just because you look at all these guys, especially in the top 5 that are going to move on and out of the rankings. That I think, especially the way everybody's hyping it up and what he's looking to be, I think he can definitely rise to. Like I
Uh,
think
you,
Alvarez.
so you think he's gonna pass who's above him? Elijah Green? Because Green's ahead of him on both R and
Not
R's
anymore.
and
I think
Sev's not
not
anymore. Not
anymore.
anymore.
Not
No.
anymore,
No.
no.
He's
My bad.
17th in all of baseball. I think
Yeah,
he's still gonna fall behind guys like Diego Cartaya, who I don't think is going to make it to the pros this year, and guys like Drew Jones, who also have
The
a bit
biggest
more
one I
time.
think is Jackson Holiday.
Yes, we're oh yeah, you ain't getting you're probably not gonna get above
oh,
Jackson
13th,
Holiday.
yeah.
Well,
Okay, well then I'd definitely say like top 5. I mean, because you know
I
you have
did
a
say
lot,
top five,
you
that's
have a
top 10.
lot of guys. uh, you, you have a you have a lot of guys in the top 10 that are going to move on to the majors. Alvarez, Henderson, Carroll, Rodriguez. Just name those are what the top 4 guys. That are most likely going to move up to the MLB.
yeah, and so with James Wood, you guys also have Elijah Green, which you guys talked about. That one's a really concerning profile. His swings and misses are extreme. He's very young, but he's not projected through until 2027. So this is going to be a hopeful when the Nats are in the middle of their success. He's a reinforcement. And it definitely seems like he is a long ways away. You have Brady House, who's supposed to start the year in high A. I think he's probably my second favorite in the Nat system. I have skepticism about Cade Cavalli. We can get to that in a minute. But with Brady House, he's very well rounded, which is really, really good. It's just that injury in 2022, which kind of sidelined most of his season.
I mean, this is still a guy in I think he has 250 plate appearances who only had 3 home runs. That's not a big deal, but this is also a guy who went from I think 49th in all of baseball for the top 100 prospects. He's off the list now, so there's a reason for that. I don't think it's just the injury. I think it was also his play during that time in the minors. I'm a little concerned about Brady House. What do you think, Stos?
Brady House is, yeah, I mean, again, I think he's an interesting case. He's a well-rounded player that can kind of do a lot of things. He came in as a shortstop. We're gonna move him to third base.
This
That
season.
means probably this season. So that means probably the Carter Kieboom era in Washington is gonna come to an end pretty soon. But I definitely think he has the tools. It's just a matter of can the Nats develop him, which is always the question at the end of the day.
Fair enough. And lastly, the prospect I just mentioned, Cade Cavalli, supposed to be in the starting rotation this year. He only had 1 start last year, right?
Yes, and then
Yes,
he
and then
hurt
he
something,
yeah.
I was
and
there.
they just shut him down.
Yeah.
So
Eh,
the projection I've read on him, which is I find most reliable, is that he can throw the hell out of the ball, get it high in velocity, but he's going to have to rely on his off-speed stuff in the major leagues. The shape on his four seam is atrocious, and
Yep.
if that's not screaming Hunter Green, then I don't know what is.
Real quick, I just want to point out, I think his 1 start, he gave up, I want to say 3 home runs, and I believe they were all on breaking balls. I think he dominated on his fastball, struck everybody out on his fastball. But then when it came to that breaking pitch, I believe he gave up 3 home runs, a double,
Yeah, that's how Hunter
so-
Green was when he came into the league as
Yeah.
well.
Well,
But
no,
after
yeah.
the league adjusted,
So
um,
I think the big thing is he's got to work through that. And I don't recall our pitching coach's name, but I just don't think our coaching staff has the right tools to develop these players.
agreed.
So I think Cavalli, he has a good fastball, but he needs to work on everything else
Jim
and
Hickey.
control. Okay. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
We need a new pitching
Yeah.
coach.
I'd like to move into our projections, our MVP, Cy Young for this team. Tom, kick us off with everything.
all right, so I'm going with the record. You want me to just go through all 3 and then we can go just pass it on? Okay, good. I project their record to be 56 and 106. This is a team that went 55 and 107 last season. And that's with half a season to help with Soto and Bell. I can only imagine what this team looks like without them for an entirety of a season. But they managed to finish with nearly an identical winning percentage without them as they did with him. That's also because of many players, including my team MVP for the season, Joey Meneses. This is arguably one of the best hitters in baseball second half of the season. Sample size wasn't huge, but it's pretty significant. 56 games, OPS plus of 165, 13 home runs, 14 doubles. That would make a crazy 162 game average, but I don't know if he's going to, replicate that. But he did exceed his projected stats by pretty wide margins. But I still project him to be the only Nationals All-Star next year. And then moving on to my most important player, it's Joey Meneses for a different reason. You have a 30-year-old rookie that somehow stayed in the minors for 10 years despite playing well in AA and AAA several times. He's just not a guy you build around. You don't build around a 30-year-old rookie. And by the time the Nats are contending again, he won't be even playing anymore. So if he's playing at that all-star level again this season, why wouldn't contending teams, offer for him at the deadline? And what would they do? And then they're in a rebuild. They're getting more pieces for, a potential all-star first baseman. That would help round off this rebuild. What do you guys think? That's my most important player for a different reason than most people would think.
I disagree with that point for most important. I also disagree that the Nats are gonna move Meneses if he is playing at an all-star level, which I also don't know if he will. Um, he's such an interesting case because again, right? It's like he's a 30-year-old minor leaguer and he comes up and is in contention or in the same breath in Washington Nationals rookie history as Bryce Harper, Juan Soto, and Vladimir Guerrero. So it's such a weird because you have that comparison, right, to those three players, and all three of those players have had amazing careers or had amazing careers and Hall of Fame careers and stuff like that. So you expect him to be good, but it's just it was such a small sample size in the majors, and I don't know where I see Meneses going, but I don't know if he's gonna be our most important piece. Aiden, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I mean, Meneses, I don't think he can keep that pace that he was on last year through the whole. Like, he doesn't even have to do the whole season to be the Nats MVP because honestly, there's not many guys who can be the MVP on this team. Obviously, you have guys, that come out of, out of left field, but I don't see that he can keep it, especially just going out this whole season, especially when he's going to be DHing and you're probably getting more rest.
Yeah, I mean, and just ending that conversation, going into the Cy Young of the team. There's a lot of guys you can pick. They're all relatively in that same level. So, I think this is a tough one. I honestly think it would go to relief pitcher. I don't know. I mean, you could get a decent campaign from Kyle Finnegan. He has upside. I get nervous every time he steps on the mound, but that's the same for a lot of closing pitchers. He's got quite the shoes to fill, not like crazy shoes to fill in replacing Tanner Rainey as the closer, but I think if anyone's going to show out, it's going to be a relief pitcher, and I think it would be our closer. And for breakout player, says you get that next, but for our breakout player, I've got to go with Keibert Ruiz. I feel like if anyone's going to break out on this team offensively or defensively, it's going to be Keibert Ruiz, and I don't think that's a hot take. I think this is a guy who's got crazy good tools. He's kind of an outlier in this Nats team that doesn't strike out, doesn't walk that much, but doesn't strike out. So he's got that good eye at the plate. I think, and especially coming from a switch hitter, you can see a lot of value from him, and I think he's going to break out offensively this season.
I'm just gonna disagree with your point, one point, but it was that Finnegan was mainly our closer last year.
Yeah.
Tanner Rainey wasn't, and Tanner Rainey's hurt, so he'll probably be on our team by whenever he comes back. I don't know what's nagging him right now, but I'll get into mine. Obviously, they are going to be fifth in the NL East again, but I have them going 60 and 102, a little more optimistic than Tom. As far as MVP is concerned, I'm very high on Keibert Ruiz, so he is my MVP for the team. I think it's a combination of what he's going to do on the field. I can see his power numbers coming, and I also see him becoming a leader on the team, which is very, very important. As far as most important though goes, there's two players I have, but I'm gonna go with Steven Strasburg. He's already hurt yet again, out with nerve damage. But we're paying him $35 million a year over the next four seasons. So he needs to get back on the field. He is the most important Washington National right now. When it comes to the Cy Young, I think Trevor Williams is honestly a really good pick. Especially over any of the bullpen guys. He pitched to a 3.21 ERA last year, 3.88 FIP. Again, not crazy numbers, but definitely a lot better than any of the Washington National starters. And then as far as breakout goes, I had K Bear, Abrams, or the guy I'm gonna go with is Mackenzie Gore. I like what Mackenzie Gore has. I like his upside, and I think he is going to break out and become the Nats quote unquote ace for the season.
I like those. I was right there with you, with the most important being Steven Strasburg. I think if you're paying a guy 35 million, you got to get an ounce of value from him. And I know no one would take him, but say he's back and healthy for a month and he's good. Maybe someone spins a D tier prospect and $10 million a year for Steven Strasburg. Like, it's a possibility. With the Cy Young and breakout, I went with both Mackenzie Gore and Mackenzie Gore. I think that he's the only one of anyone in that starting rotation in the past 2 or 3 years that has shown any signs of life in the major league level. I think that Josiah Gray is really not going to hit it with the fastball, and I don't know if he's made that adjustment. I haven't seen him training online. That doesn't mean he hasn't. It hasn't been broadcasted to us. And for the MVP, I went a different route. I was with Jeimer Candelario. I think he's a very, very good baseball player, and I think that gets forgotten about. His 2021 was well above average. His 2020 itself was well above average, small sample size, but great player all around. And I think just having a lot less pressure on him is really just going to let him relax, hit the ball, and obviously just kind of have fun.
Do you have a record?
Oh, I have them at 58 and 104.
Well, then I'll start off with my record. I'll go straight into it. I have them at 61 and 101. I just think a full season of, these young guys and these, like the free agents we signed really having nothing to lose. I think it just calms everybody down, and wins 61 games. My MVP, I have CJ Abrams. I think he's, I think he's gonna take a big step in just hitting in general. I know average is, not liked around here. But hit somewhere around 280 and just 275, 280. And honestly, that'll just be good enough to win an MVP for the Nationals. And like I said earlier, I think he wins a Gold Glove. I think he takes an improvement and wins a Gold Glove there. Breakout, I have Key Bear. I, you know, I that's just a simple one. Most important, I'm would be, obviously the pitching staff, just to see improvement there. But I'm gonna go more importantly, Cade Cavalli. We only saw one start out of him last year and then he got injured. I want to see, I obviously don't want to see him get injured this year. And I think if he doesn't, it's important to see some improvement from that breaking pitch. And then, I'll be fine there. And then Cy Young, I'm gonna go Josiah Gray. He's the number one starter for this team, and I think he's just gonna carry it. And he'll end the season as the number one. But I think, looking at if you even look at next year, there's many guys that'll probably take it away from him.
All right. So that'll do it for the Washington Nationals. Thank you, Aiden, for joining with us. And we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with the second half of this episode where we're going to talk about the Miami Marlins.